HOA Karen destroyed park speakers, sued and paid $150,000. The park was my sanctuary. Every evening, I'd lace up my sneakers, pop in my earbuds, and jog the winding paths of Willow Creek Park, where the soft hum of community life, kids laughing, dogs barking, and the faint melody of music from the park's new speakers wrapped around me like a warm blanket. But that peace shattered the day Karen moved into our neighborhood. Karen wasn't just any neighbor. She was the self-appointed queen of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a woman who wielded her clipboard like a scepter and her rule book like a guillotine. From the moment she arrived, her sharp voice echoed through the cul-de-sacs, nitpicking mailbox colors and lawn heights with a zeal that made everyone flinch. But I didn't think much of her until the park speakers, those beautiful, community-funded speakers that played soft jazz and pop hits during evening hours, became her obsession. It started with whispers at the HOA meetings. Karen, with her tightly pinned bun and perpetually pursed lips, complained that the speakers were a nuisance and disrupted her peace. Never mind that the music stopped at 8 p.m. sharp or that the volume was barely above a murmur. She'd stand up, waving her manicured hands, insisting the park was no place for noise pollution. Most of us rolled our eyes. The speakers were a gift, funded by years of bake sales and car washes, a symbol of our little community's unity. They weren't just speakers, they were our shared joy. But Karen didn't care about joy. She cared about control. Week after week, she escalated her crusade. She'd storm into meetings, her heels clicking like gunfire, and read from a list of grievances. The music was too loud, too modern, too urban. She'd glare at anyone who dared disagree, her eyes narrowing like a predator, sizing up prey. I tried to stay out of it. I'm just a graphic designer. Not a fighter. My battles are fought with Photoshop, not words. But even I couldn't ignore the tension building like a storm cloud over the park. One evening, as I jogged my usual loop, I noticed the music was gone. The park felt eerily silent, like a house after a power outage. I slowed down, scanning the area, and that's when I saw at the speakers, all 6 of them, reduced to mangled heaps of plastic and wire. Someone had taken a crowbar, or worse, to the mounts, splintering the wooden poles and leaving the circuits exposed like gutted fish. A small crowd had gathered, murmuring in shock. I overheard Mr. Patel, the retired engineer who'd spearheaded the speaker project, whisper, "Who would do this? I knew who." Deep down, we all did. The next morning, the neighborhood was abuzz. Karen had been spotted near the park the previous night, her SUV parked suspiciously close to the speaker mounts. A grainy security camera clip, shared on the community group chat, showed her silhouette lurking near the equipment, a heavy tool in hand. The evidence wasn't airtight, but it was enough to fuel the fire. At the emergency HOA meeting that night, the room crackled with outrage. Karen sat in the front row, arms crossed, her face a mask of defiance. "You can't prove anything," she snapped when Mr. Patel stood up, his voice trembling with anger. "This is a witch hunt. Those speakers were a blight on our community, and I'm not sorry they're gone." The room erupted. People shouted over each other, accusing her of vandalism, of destroying something we'd all worked for. I sat in the back, my stomach churning. I didn't want to get involved, but the sight of those broken speakers haunted me. They weren't just equipment, they were late-night planning sessions. Kids dancing to pop songs, elderly couples swaying to jazz. Karen had taken a crowbar to our memories. Then came the twist none of us expected. As the meeting descended into chaos, a quiet voice cut through the noise. It was Mrs. Delgado, a shy widow who rarely spoke up. She stood, clutching a folded piece of paper, her hands shaking. "I saw something else that night," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't just Karen. There was a man with her, someone I didn't recognize. He was helping her. I think he was from the HOA board." The room froze. Heads turned to the board members, who looked as stunned as the rest of us. Karen's face paled, her lips twitching as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Mrs. Delgado handed the paper to Mr. Patel, a sketch she'd made of the man, detailed enough to identify him as Tom, the HOA treasurer. Whispers turned to gasps. Tom, a mild-mannered accountant who'd always seemed neutral, was Karen's accomplice. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than the vandalism itself. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The community rallied, hiring a lawyer named Sarah who specialized in property disputes. Sarah was relentless, digging into Karen's history and uncovering a pattern. This wasn't her first rodeo. In her last neighborhood, she'd been sued for tampering with community property, a mailbox she'd painted to match HOA standards without permission. The evidence piled up: the security footage, Mrs. Delgado's testimony, and, most damningly, a receipt found in Tom's trash for a crowbar, purchased the day before the vandalism. The confrontation came at a public hearing in the town hall, a packed room buzzing with tension. Karen stood at the podium, her usual bravado crumbling under Sarah's cross-examination. "You destroyed $15,000 worth of community property," Sarah said, her voice steady but sharp. "You didn't just break speakers, you broke trust. You broke our community." Karen tried to deflect, claiming she was protecting property values, but the crowd wasn't having it. Boos echoed through the room, and I saw tears in Mr. Patel's eyes as he clutched a photo of the park in its heyday. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I stood up, my voice shaky but clear. "Those speakers weren't just yours to destroy," I said. "They were ours. You didn't just ruin equipment, you ruined our evenings, our memories, our kids' laughter." The room went quiet. Karen's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw something flicker: shame, maybe, or defiance. But she said nothing. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a gavel that seemed to carry the weight of justice itself, ruled swiftly. Karen and Tom were found liable for the vandalism. The damages, $150 to $1,000, covering the speakers, legal fees, and punitive costs for willful destruction of community property. Tom, red-faced and stammering, resigned from the HOA that night. Karen, ordered to pay the bulk of the fine, fled the room as the crowd erupted in cheers. The aftermath was bittersweet. The park was silent for months as we fundraised to replace the speakers, but the community grew stronger. Bonded by the fight, we held barbecues, car washes, even a talent show where I designed the flyers. Slowly, the park came back to life. One evening, as new speakers hummed with jazz, I jogged past a group of kids dancing, their laughter echoing through the trees. Karen's house went up for sale a week later. Rumor had it she couldn't handle the glares, the whispers, the weight of her own actions. Justice wasn't just the fine. It was the way we rebuilt, the way we refused to let her win. Karen thought she could control us, but she underestimated the power of a community united. She paid $150 as $7, but the real cost was her pride, her reputation, her place among us. As I jogged that night, the music filling the air, I felt a quiet triumph. We'd taken our park back. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or should the punishment have been different? Share your thoughts below.